A dash of cayenne to the root. Gonna put on my
Your show will go
grease
live
suit.
in 5 seconds. 4,
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings, greetings, and salutations. Welcome, Habargani, Bawoni. Come on in, come on in. Sit down and share with me today. All is a blessing. Greetings, welcome, come on in. Alafia.
Secret societies that were involved in founding this country. Who were they? And what were they trying?
Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name through the wind. Come back home to Africa. The fatted calf and golden ring are waiting for you once again. Coming back to you. I'm longing for my family. Coming back to you. Out of bondage and now I am free. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da da da. Da da da. Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name through the wind. Come back home to Africa. The fatted calf and golden ring are waiting for you once again. Yes, come on in, welcome, come on in. Greetings, greetings and salutations. Welcome Imani Sankofa, Neophyte Bokur Tourist, Keona D. Carter, our moderator. Welcome, peace and blessings, greetings. Come on in for another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. All is a blessing, yes. Greetings, greetings. All is a blessing. Yes, I love this song. Diane Cameron Elam, I love this song. Greetings, peace and love, joy and prosperity. Come on in, welcome, welcome, come on in. Come back home to Africa. Come back home. Come back home to Africa. Come back home. Hola, hola. ¿Cómo estás? Greetings, greetings and salutations. Benedicciones, benedicciones, benedicciones. Welcome, greetings and salutations. Divine, all blessed peace and love, joy and prosperity. You are now sitting live with the Divine Prince and always in archive at your leisure and convenience. Here on two platforms, blogtalkradio.com/the-divine-prince, and also at youtube.com/voodoo tie. V like Victor, OODOOTYE. Sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo world spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is my constant prayer, my mantra, affirmation, reverberation, reiteration, and it is my ever living reality. It is crucial and critical to the very foundation of my inner standing, my teaching, my walk, my works along this divine, all blessed life path and journey. And it is how I, the Divine Prince, make sense out of all that we're challenged with here on our journey on Mother, Father, Earth. And it is my personal place of power and inner standing, the place from where I begin, the place from where I realize and crystallize my endeavors, understanding that I and I alone create and co-create my divine destiny, and I alone create and co-create my divine all blessed reality. And so it is, Ashe. So it is, Ashe. Corona don't determine my reality. The weather does not determine my reality. You do not determine my reality. I create and recreate my reality, and all is truly and indeed a blessing. This Wednesday, April 15th, 2020, you can tune in to me now live on Blog Talk Radio by way of my phone lines at area code 845-277-9143, area code 845-277-9143. You can also type your questions, comments, and requests in the live YouTube chat room in all capital letters. That makes it easier for both myself and Kiona, my moderator, to see you and respond directly to your question, comment, or request. As always, I want to give thanks to, give acknowledgement to the mighty shoulders of ancestors, for which we all now have our very standing, our very being. For those of you who are new and don't quite get ancestral honor and worship, just at the physical level, just at the biological level, just at the very basic human level, you would not be here now if it weren't for those who came before you. The grandmas and the grandpas, the fathers and mothers, the uncles and aunts, the cousins, and those who came before us along this divine, all blessed earth plane existence. We always give acknowledge to the Egun. We always give acknowledge to the ancestors. We always placate Gede so that they would remain still, that they would remain calm, that they would remain at peace and allow themselves to evolve and to grow and to develop as all life continues to evolve, grow, and develop. No matter what the challenge, this is a moment of development. This is a moment of growth. This is indeed a moment of blessing for those who embrace the blessing, for those who choose to recreate the blessing. I always recreate and anticipate and expect the blessing. And that's why my mantra is all is a blessing. All is a blessing, no matter what the challenge, no matter what the undertaking, no matter what the difficulty, all is a blessing when you can just see clearly beyond the veils. We also want to acknowledge the great, mighty warriors that stand up with us on today. We acknowledge the spirit of iron, the spirit of foundation, the foundation of all humanity. We acknowledge the spirit of direction and the crossbow. We acknowledge the spirit of fertility and fruitfulness and the growth of our crops, our literal and our figurative crops, our symbolic and our real world crops. production in life. And of course, we acknowledge those indigenous ancestors who stood the ground with us and for us, Black Hawk, and the many other ancestral spirits and indigenous powers that inhabited this land before we were brought here forcibly by way of the Middle Passage. And those ancestors that taught us how to find food, find fruit, protect ourselves from the weather, protect ourselves from the cold, and gave us substance when we found maroonage and escape from the hardships of enslavement. So we always start by acknowledging the powers of the day, the ritual calendar of the day, and of course the ancestors that stand up with us and for us in all endeavors. I welcome you. I greet you, each and every one of you, both individually and collectively. Of course, Kiona and Julia Rose and Arisha and those who I've already acknowledged, Imani Sankofa, Keisha Smith, but also those who might be listening and I can't see your face or see your name or see your area code right now. We welcome you, as always, to this squared circle of gods and goddesses, to this sacred space. And I invite you to be an active participant, be a co host, be a star of the show. Call in at area code 845 277 9143. 845 277 9143. When you're ready with your question, comment, or request, please do press the number 1 on your telephone keypad. I'll be more than happy to bring you into the conversation. I won't be with you long today. I won't be with you long. And when Spirit suggests that questions have been presented and callers are already on the board, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move forward to the activities of the rest of my day. But I want to share with you how I woke up this morning. As always, I wake up, questioning the reality of life, and one more opportunity to be present here and to make a change, to make a difference, to do something that makes a difference. And I always start with the acknowledgement of my ancestors and my ancestral shrine room, of course. And then I make my way into the temple space proper and acknowledge the Loa and the Orisha and the spirits that greet me each and every day, coming and going in and out of my routine and my activities. And so I make my way out into my garden, or at least I thought I was, to put some water down on my plants, only to find the biggest, blue grayest dog I have ever seen in my life in my yard. It was somewhere in between a Saint Bernard and a pit bull and a bear, as far as what I was concerned. And it's in my yard. My yard is fenced off for the most part. 75% of my squared yard is fenced off. The other area, my neighbor's area, too, should be fenced off. So there should not ever be random people or animals, except those that can climb fences, in my yard. So, of course, I'm hot. The dog is aggressive. The dog refused to allow me to even come out my door. And so I sound the alarm. I called out to my neighbors. If you want him, you you need to come get him. We have ways of resolving such matters. And it took me back to something that I mentioned to you all about 3 weeks ago. And that was another post on the Nextdoor platform. If you aren't familiar with Nextdoor, it's like the back stoop. It's like the backyard fence, of the 1940s and 50s, and all the gossip and complaints and information and resources end up on Nextdoor. And you need an address, a verified address, and a zip code in order to be on Nextdoor. So you only have privy to the post. You can see portions of uptown and midtown, mid city. I can see downtown. I can see Treme. And there are a lot of posts about animals. Very few posts about people. very few post about humanity. And in my experience with the site, some of you remember me saying before, it's one of the most prejudicial, racial, biased social networking sites that's out there of me and my good friend discussing in a urgent calamitous scenario where the Walmart trucks ain't rolling and Amazon ain't delivering and the mail ain't coming out. How would you live? What would you eat? What would you do? And we had this discussion back in 2005. By the way, I know some of you remember this me bringing this up previously on the show, and we talked about what our great grandparents did and our grandparents would have had to do, and that's eat possum and coon. And I referenced it on this site only to be attacked. Now, I wasn't moved by the attack. I expect attack on Nextdoor. You all don't respond to humanity. You don't respond to people of color. You all don't respond to your black neighbors. And if it's not a white neighbor or someone of color who's not completely ingratiated to your concerns and your needs, you don't acknowledge anybody else on Nextdoor. And that's one of the reasons that I made reference to how to capture a possum, opossum, and cook and eat them in the first place. So of course, all the threats of PETA and animal rights, came out of the woodworks, not directed at me, but supposedly directed at the owner of the quote unquote post that originally posted about the opossum problem in the community in the first place. Now, no one has responded about they lost dog. And this is an expensive dog. This ain't no stray animal. This horse, this bear is a very expensive animal. This isn't no stray run of the neighborhood animal. And so someone is either careless, doesn't care, you all understand entitlement, doesn't care, or is still laying up sleep or drunk somewhere and doesn't know that their bear is out roaming the community in the neighborhood at the threat of creating a problem for both whoever the human is that your animal encounters, but also for your animal. If your animal encounters a yard at 8 o'clock in the morning, when I'm praying and meditating and watering my plants, and enjoying nature. And it's one of the reasons that I moved to the South in the first place. Some of those little quirks about living in the city and people allowing their dogs to defecate everywhere and pee everywhere and walk down the middle of the sidewalk and expect humans to move out of the way. And there's a general overall sense of lack of humanity I've noticed with many dog owners in the city and in the crowded areas of life. Do what you want in the country. Do what you want in the rural area. Do what you want in your chain link fenced in yard, okay? But you can't allow aggressive animals to roam the community and not expect there to be a problem. So of course I mentioned it on this site, Nextdoor, to no response, to dead silence. Now I'm sure if some of you posted it, it would have been responded to. I'm sure if some other shades of the rainbow posted it, it would have been responded to. But because it's me, I'm just some black guy, who's concerned about your dog's entitlement to enjoy the leisure and luxury of my yard. And heaven forbid I go out there now and find, a pile of dog manure in my yard. I'm going to bag it up and I'm going to place it on your doorstep. Okay? I'm going to bag it up and I'm going to place it on your doorstep. So thank you very much. We get it about yourselves. You don't care about any children that might be in their yards and any elders who might be out sweeping up berries and cleaning up the sidewalk, by the way. Your only concern is yourself. And my pet peeve, and many of you know now where I'm going, is when this shows up in voodoo, when this shows up in hoodoo, when it shows up in conjure, when it shows up in spirituality and religion, that level of disregard for nature and for humanity. I don't believe dogs and animals should be pinned up, tied up, imprisoned in the first place. I think we've gone way overboard with this whole animal thing, in our society. And while we're quickly unleashing the lions, tigers, and bears, and elephants, and circus animals, and whatnot, at the community level, at the grassroots level, we see hoarding of animals. I have a neighbor who's an animal hoarder. And so if your cat has gone a missing, it's probably over here with her. And she feeds the cat, she feeds the opossum, she feeds the raccoons, and any other stray critters that are drawn to our block in particular because they know this availability of food is out there. Let's get back to acknowledging humanity, for God's sakes, and particularly right now. I keep telling you all, we are on a timeout. We're on a spiritual timeout. We're on a personal and individual and collective societal timeout so that we can reevaluate what's important to us, where our priorities really lie. How much attention are we really giving to our spouses and our partners and our children and our loved ones? Did you marry for economics? Did you marry for personality? Are you shacking up for love, or because it's cheaper for you to live? Some of you all are questioning that right now. Right now. I know it because it's on the news every day. The divorce rate now is higher than ever, higher than ever. And people every day, I saw it mentioned again today on The View, every day are talking about the challenge of realizing who you live with, realizing who you're shacking up with, realize who you're raising children with, in a way that many of you don't have an opportunity to see or experience in regular, non-calamitous times. When our only concern is our Western, carnal, material, physical, the pentacle sign, the coin sign on the tarot deck. That's your only concern normally. It's only when we're under urgent scenarios, emergency scenarios, that, those other senses kick in for us, that our third eye suddenly opens up and we then begin to see and hear and pay attention to us. And to my friends and families and viewers who are still only listening to talk radio, but won't read a newspaper, but won't watch the news, but won't get real edification about what's happening, please get a clue. Your talking heads are not giving you all the information. Your talking heads have chosen a side. Your talking heads have a job to do, have a platform to maintain, so that their check, their entertainment check, continues. Their job is not to edify you. Their job is not to feed you. Their job is not to give you truth, unless it's award-winning, ratings-driven truth. So you've got to be open to hearing other opinions. You've got to be open to reading other media, forms of media. You've got to be open to paying attention to what's being said in the news in other countries, in other locations around the world, in order to get clarity about the urgency of this moment in time. And I'm angry with Black people who I'm looking at with my own two eyes, who are too busy. I'm not talking about, the 70-year-old who's cleaning her sidewalk up from the blackberries so that they don't get trapped in her house. I'm not talking about her. I'm not talking about, the one who's going to the store once every 2 or 3 weeks and is bringing back food, for their house, their family, the neighborhood, etc. I'm talking about those of you who are walking around like ain't nothing happening. You Uber and Uber Eats drivers who ain't got no kind of mask on at all. And we know you're going from location, person to person, but you ain't got no kind of mask on. I'm talking about black people right now, whose numbers are the highest, 70% in Louisiana, in the state of Louisiana. And you're still walking around like ain't nothing going on. You're still walking around like you don't have a clue. You're still kicking it, if you will, under these circumstances. Be alive. Be alive. In my list of affirmations, be alive. That's one of the affirmations. Be alive at the end of the day. Be alive when this is over. Be alive to laugh and say, how seriously did we take this? Be alive for it. Because there are too many who are not. And those of you who don't think 2%, 3%, 4%, 5% is a big number, you don't know your math. You can't count. You can't count. You probably don't have a savings account. You probably don't know the first thing about interest. You can't count. If you think 3%, 5% in terms of human life toll is not that big of a deal, you can't count. You don't know your math. This is no joke. This is no joke. I had a first cousin, one of my youngest first cousins passed away from this virus. No one knew at the time. The alarm bells weren't going off in early February, in mid-February, in some cities, some geographic locations, in some states. They're still not going off in some states. Y'all better get a clue. Y'all better get a clue. This is the warriors coming through, because a warrior has to choose their battles. You all know how it goes. If I say anything important, anything extreme, all is a blessing.
How are you today?
All is a blessing. All is a blessing. I didn't have to harm a dog today.
I can wait until you finish.
So all is a blessing.
I can actually wait until you finish your topic, because I have a light question.
And what's your question?
Okay, so first, I wanted to say thank you for the gentle push and invitation that you and Kiana give, online to the comments, because I've just been through a lot recently and I've been kind of guarded. So I'm slowly letting the bricks come down a little bit. So yeah. Thank you. So I'm feeling more comfortable to call in. And secondly, me being an emotional person, and I know people ask you all the time about how do you do this with negativity, negative energy, negative. Everyone's always asking about negativity, but how do you channel exciting energy? You know how some people can, go ahead.
My first immediate response to that is going to sound just a little bit shady. The same way people are channeling, the negative energy. That's their focus. That's their recreation. Now I'm saying two things here. On the one hand, when you direct that to me, yes, I'm getting other people's negative energy all day long. Except for my initiates, my godchildren, who want other information. 80%, 85% of my contact every day is, I got a problem. I got an issue. I got a complication. This is going on. That's going on. This is a problem. That's a problem. So I have to stand up in what I preach. I have to demonstrate what I teach every day. So the amount of activity that I spend in my crystals, the amount of activity I spend talking about that's my world. People often ask me why I don't talk about, the news more or pop culture more or my ancestors every day, especially if I'm in duress, especially if I'm under some kind of trauma, drama, activity. So The same way people allow themselves to get stuck in a pattern of creating and recreating a reality that draws that negative vibration to them, you got to create a pattern, a habit of a pattern, a routine of a pattern where all you're doing is operating in positive energy. So for me, it's check your mantras. What are your mantras? Check your inner language, because your inner language will overpower your mantra if you're only saying your mantra, once or twice a day for 5 minutes. I strongly suggest people say that mantra, particularly if it's a new mantra, 500 times the first week that you create the mantra every day, and then rewrite it until it is part of your second nature. All is a blessing is second nature to me now. And it is to some of you now. It immediately jumps in your head now, instead of the negative. It's reality that reinforces our truth, beloved, that reinforces our truth. So if you expect the negative always, you anticipate the negative always, you're that skeptic. We got some conscious folks that's skeptical about everything. You're going to find a problem in everything. You're going to find what you're looking for, a problem in everything. You don't leave any room for open, for growth, for this to be that time when people do, the opposite of what your expectation is. See, I'm not talking about expectation. I am pessimistic by nature. I'm pessimistic by nature. What I'm not is critical by nature. I'm not always criticizing. I'm analyzing. It's not the same thing as criticizing. It's not the same thing as always anticipating everybody gonna do me wrong. Nobody can be trusted. I don't trust people who speak in generalities like that either, by the way. People who say nobody can be trusted, I've watched them with all three eyes. I watched them carefully, because you're now creating
Yeah.
and recreating your own reality. What is it about you that's not trusting, that's not to be trusted, that you are now emitting that vibration out consistently? So the way to do it is you've got to program it. You've got to program it. You got to get up in the morning consciously deciding, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be at peace. I'm not going to collect people's stuff. I'm already well into your energy before you call, just so that I'm not bombarded with that. Um, Choose your music wisely. Choose what you're allowing to come through the TV in your house more wisely, and when and how often. Maybe don't get up and turn. It's really as simple and as complicated as how we invite negativity into our lives every day. And I want to say too, beloved, not you, but to someone who might be listening, some of that negativity is straight from the source. Now, there's some people, in my experience, it's always negative. It's always a problem. Somebody's always out to do them. Somebody's always out to shortchange them. And that negative vibration originates with that person. With that person. Because it's impossible for you to roll the dice and get the same number every single time you roll the dice. Okay? You're gonna get a blessing and a curse at some point in the process. So when people start locking into consistent language that I'm always the loser, I'm always on the short end of the stick, I'm always being used and abused, I'm always being hurt and harmed, I have to look at them. I have to look at them. So be light. Go ahead, beloved.
I'm sorry. Do you feel that the same principles apply to positive energy as well? I should have said the question a little bit more in detail. I find that if things positive. Okay, so a lot of people go through a lot of negative things, especially us as people of color. So when things start to go your way and things start good happening for you, it's hard to channel such positive energy to stay focused. People get large lump sums of money and they lose control. They forget about their path, and they spend all their money and they get to drink and and especially when everything is good, especially for people who are not used to having something, or people that are used to having that. Just a lot of times when, quote unquote, in society, something good happens to you, like a large lump sum of money, or etc. It's hard for people to even bring that excitement or that positive energy down, to channel it, to stay focused and say, okay, let me keep my priorities in order.
That's because what they're standing on wasn't real in the first place. Just like I said yesterday, people who are claiming religion, who are claiming a certain mindset, who are claiming a philosophy, who are claiming, whatever, Hebrew, Israelite, Christian, Voodoo, whatever. We see right here online that most of the time it's not real. It's what we say. It's what we project. It's what we want to look like we're operating in. But I don't understand people who are that easily. I don't understand. I heard you say, okay, people who aren't used to. I don't. I know there are people who are born to a certain degree of poverty, for instance. Maybe you were born in a project, and maybe you were born in a really, really bad scenario. But then you get up and go to school every day. And then you go from kindergarten to 18, and then eventually you're out in the world at some point. And so you're not only seeing the negative, you're choosing only to see the negative. You're choosing not to see the other examples of things that are working right in the world and around you, and ultimately within you. Ultimately within you. We choose to focus on the negative or a positive. It's really that simple. We choose to. It doesn't mean that the negative ain't real. It doesn't mean your lack of food or your lack of money in the moment, or lack of a partner in the moment is not real. But we choose whether we're going to accept that as a negative or a positive, an opportunity to grow, to change, to affect it, or not. Elusive to some people. It was elusive to me back when I was depressive. Back when I was negative. Back when I was trying to find my way. It was elusive to me. That was one of my pet peeves. People trying to tell me to be happy, to get over it, to be positive. You're grown now. You have an opportunity to make your own life. And when you're depressive and young, you ain't trying to hear that. You ain't trying to hear that. And so you're still actively in a position of feeding the negative. I think positive needs positive energy, feeds off positive energy, only grows with the more energy that you give it. Negative energy is like a black hole. It sucks everything and everybody dry, and it's never fed. It's never satisfied. Fake it until you make it. What they mean is not be phony, but smile if you have to. Say positive words if you have to, until you physically, chemically, hormonally get there. Until your body catches up to your words. Because see, what's happening now is we're spewing out words, and then our bodies are having to walk through that muck, that mess of lack of trust, of lack of faith, of lack of commitment, of lack of sympathy and empathy. Because I also noticed that once you get locked into that, it's always wrong, it's always bad, I can't trust people, I'm never a winner. Once you get locked into that, there's a selfishness that takes over. And then you too become inhumane, unable to tap into humanity, unable to acknowledge humanity. Just like you're not able to acknowledge the blessing. You know, if you can't see a blessing, if you can't count a blessing, um, your spiritual eye is closed. Your spiritual eye is closed. If you're alive right now and you're healthy or healthy enough, you have an opportunity to affect what happens to you tomorrow or the next day. So we always have an option to choose. We really do. And sometimes it is chemical, hormonal, and people really need to see a doctor, really need to see a psychologist, psychiatrist. Make sure it's not something physically going on with you. Another thing about depressive attitudes and behaviors and mood, how much covers are on the windows in your house? How much light? I talked about that yesterday. Some of you, especially in the cities, are not getting enough light. You ain't got but one or two windows in your apartment in the first place. And then because of your graveyard shift or your swing, you got a blackout curtain to that, you know, and so your chemicals are now being affected by your lack of vitamin D and your lack of light. And that will make you depressive. It will make your body chemistry respond in a negative or depressive way. One thing I always had was hope for a better day. Even when I was a runaway kid, even when I was on the street, even when I was in the shelter, you know, I would get up and leave the shelter and go to the richest, wealthiest neighborhoods in town and walk through them. Spend my day there. Spend my time there. Spend my time at the museum, you know, at the library, but in positive, reinforcing environments. It's a conscious thing that one has to do, beloved. You have to consciously feed it. Please, if you have questions, comments, requests, call me at 845
Yes, thank you.
277-9143. Thank you, beloved, and for your participation and your questions. Do press the number one.
I'll be in the comments.
Yes, and just unmute yourself if you want to jump back in again. I invite anyone who's on the phone lines now listening to press the number one, and I'll open your mic and we'll receive your questions, comments, or requests. Greetings, Justice, Blissful Divination, Toya, Imani Sankofa, anybody that I might have missed, Seven the Gentleman, welcome. Thank you so much for being present and bringing your goddess energy to another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. How may I assist you today? What questions and comments may I respond to today? Thank you, Jennifer Anderson, for your comments and for your participation. And yes, I hear you. It's a lot of people who aren't getting paid right now, who don't have all the resources that they require or they desire right now. Be positive, beloved. The positive thing is, you know, you got a real job. You know the check is coming. You just don't know when, okay? But you know it's coming. But also, people are really looking out for our teachers and our EMS and our frontline essential workers. So we have a saying here in the South, a closed mouth don't get fed. So don't be silent about what you're experiencing. Don't be silent about your lack of a check. It doesn't mean beg, but if your family doesn't know, if your friends don't know, you know, you just dropped it in on us. So now we know, you know, the help, the resources that you need are coming to you right now, are coming to you right now, not just your check. But I appreciate your comment and your contribution, and I appreciate teachers. My mother, many of you know, is a retired teacher. I have a great deal of respect for teachers and educators who empower us, who give us the very tools that lead to the wealth and prosperity and happiness and fame and fortune that many of us desire. It is indeed our educators who give us those nuggets of gold, that chest full of gold nuggets that we take from out of our heads into our hands, and then it comes back to us in life as a living, as a career, as a product. So I'm really grateful for you, Jennifer Anderson, and for all the teachers like my mother, um, for giving your time, your effort, your energy to the empowerment of the world making, 500,000 a year, and they should be. They should be paid more than our politicians. Our teachers should be making, what medical professionals, are making in terms of an income. So I'm grateful for our teachers and our educators and those who gift us with empowerment through information, empowerment through knowledge. Remember, the person who taught you how to count, you may have forgotten that teacher's name, but you're talking about a skill that has carried you throughout your life. You're talking about a skill that stands up with you every time you pay your rent, pay your mortgage, or at the checkout counter, or issuing out your child's allowance, daycare costs. Your kindergarten teacher, your parents, your first, second, third grade teachers gave us those skills, gave us that knowledge, that knowledge. And how many of us, particularly at my age, can still call those teachers out by name? I can. I can call my first grade, second grade, third grade, my music teacher, my gym PE teacher. I can call them all out by name. Still, right now, to this day. So we must acknowledge our educators and those who gift us empowerment. I'm often dealing with the question of how much a reading costs, how much initiation might require, how much, instruction might require. And we don't have a problem giving Howard University, a big sum of money. We don't have a problem giving Dillard a huge chunk of money. We don't have a problem giving, you many of these Ivy League schools a huge chunk of money. But then we look at our elementary school teachers and our primary care teachers and our ministers and our educators who mentor and gift us with skills that get us through the challenges. We often question the value of that. We start counting the pennies, in that. But we don't count the pennies, for the designer clothing, the designer car, all the stuff that's peddled to us, on the TV commercials day and night. You all don't challenge that, but you challenge how much your teachers are getting. You challenge how much I'm getting. You challenge how much your ministers and your administrators of spirit who empower us every day, are earning. So I'm grateful for my teachers, absolutely grateful for my teachers. And we're here for you, absolutely here for you. Please give me your questions, comments, and requests in all capitals in the chat. If you're on the phone line, I have many of you who are with me on the phone lines. Please do press the number 1 on your telephone keypad when you're ready with your question, comment, or request at area code 845-277-9143. Press the number 1. I'll be more than happy to unmute your mic. Oh, I got another delivery at the door. I told y'all I got a lot going on. And when you all stop with your questions, your comments, your requests, I'm going to move it forward. Thank you. What do you call them? LED candles? Because I just can't make it out now to a Botanica. Give me a moment. Y'all know I got to bleach my hands before I sit down again. I have to watch and bleach my hands, Blog Talk Radio. I hope you can hear me at this distance, Blog Talk Radio. I'll be back momentarily. Just as soon as I finish. Thank you. I got to bleach my hands now. Oh, yes, indeed. Okay, I'm back. I'm buffering on YouTube. I don't know if it's because I moved through the house or what that was about, but I buffered on YouTube for a moment. My hands are now clean. Okay. I'm telling you, beloved, who was that? Kiona? I just don't understand some people. Oh, no, that's my 310 area code. Say your name again, 310.
Julia Rose.
Julia Rose, yes, Julia Rose. I'm talking to you because your mic is open. And of course to my listeners. But remember I talked earlier today that I was really worked up by the black folks that's walking around as if there's no calamity, as if this is all a big illusion. I just don't get it. I just don't. I just don't. Now the postal people, the UPS and FedEx, they have on masks. I've seen people with the gloves on. I've ordered from Uber Eats twice in the last month, and my drivers, had on a mask and gloves. But I've also seen Uber drivers and Uber Eats, and I don't want to pick on just Uber. So with some of the other companies, Postmates and all the other people that deliver walking around as if nothing is happening. And I don't get it. And this late in the game, April 15th, I don't want to hear I don't watch the news. I don't want to hear that. You know at this point, when you step outside and you don't see nobody on the street, Toya, Toya, we know something is going on. So people cannot keep saying, oh, well, I don't watch the TV. I don't watch the news. I don't keep up, with all of that. This is a big deal. The fact that we don't have hand grenades and bombs falling out the sky is a blessing. But let's be clear. We're at war. Let's be clear. We're in a battle right now. And I don't want to, I'm not saying the battle is with China, though I do agree that China held back on us a little bit. China didn't reveal all the details about this up front and right away. So I agree to some degree with that commentary that's being made. But I'm talking about you folk, grassroots folks in the community, friends, family, etc., co-workers, etc. We have no excuse now to be clueless. And if you don't trust your government, if you don't trust the media, then you should be absolutely more cautious right now than anybody. I certainly wouldn't side, I would side with caution as opposed to it's all a big conspiracy and there ain't nothing to be worried about. I would side with caution, particularly if the big orange man is saying it. Some of us can't trust nothing he says. So it's either worse than what he says, or he's withholding truths about what's being said. But doesn't that send off alarm bells for you? Doesn't that make you concerned? So I would expect that this audience, y'all are handling y'all's business. I would pray so. I would hope so. But man, I'm seeing some craziness out in the community. And my local media, Dr. Corey Aber and Sheba Turks, and they like to call y'all out. They don't call you out by name, but they let it be known. I see you. We're observing you. We know some of you still walking around like you don't have a clue about this calamity that's among us. And so we're already beginning to see some signs that this is going to blow up again. Because of some of the activities that went on Easter weekend. Some of y'all just had to party, had to play cards, had to barbecue, had to be out and about, And so you can't be around me. Anybody that think this is a conspiracy can't be around me. Anybody that don't take this seriously can't be around me. Anybody that thinks this ain't a big deal cannot be around me. Can't come in my house, can't stand on my stoop, If you're gonna talk to me at all, it's gonna be online, it's gonna be on the phone, or you're gonna be standing out in the middle of the street, away from my door, because you won't bring it back to me. I won't. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for concurring, because I won't get this virus. Not me. Not me. I don't want to hear about, asymptomatic. You might be asymptomatic for sure. So no. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Young people, no, especially. No, people that's 30, no, you can't come to my house. You can't come to my house. So you better mail it, you better fax it, you better ship it, and I'm going to spray it down and bleach it and clean it once it gets here. I've cleaned some stuff so good that I couldn't even read the letter. I couldn't even read the envelope. So print off your letters. Don't write it in ink or pencil, because that won't hold up to the bleach. Very well, very well. Oh, I got another one at the door. Portia, give me a moment, beloved. Uh, and this one knocks really loud. I think he kicks my door. Yeah. Thank you. I don't know if this is it or if this is just some. Uh, Thank you, UPS. Y'all see any cars moving? Thank you.
All right.
You have a good day.
Hey, you got your stuff yesterday?
What stuff? Oh, okay. Yeah. Whew. All right. So y'all think I'm joking, right? This is how you do it. And especially where that tape is, because that's where they got to press down. Let that dry for at least 15 minutes. Let that Lysol dry. And then bleach your hands. Then go and wash your hands. I'll be back, Blog Talk Radio. I got to wash my hands again. I appreciate you all's patience and understanding and love and support, particularly right now at a time like this. I don't know how much you all have been paying attention to the news. I know I have. They are already leaking the notion, the idea that this is going to go on longer than what we've originally perceived. For those of you who don't already know, they've canceled every festival in New Orleans for the rest of the year. So it won't be no postponed Jazz Fest. It won't be no postponed Essence Fest. There will be no Jazz Fest. There will be no Essence Fest, and a few other festivals that I'm not calling out individually. They're all canceled. They're all canceled for 2020. So Essence Fest next year, 21. Jazz Fest next year, 21. It's not happening this year. So the idea that you're going to get up and bounce around and flounce around, by even July 4th, it's not about to happen, y'all. It's not about to happen. I warned you that our world is different, that we have already woken up into a new world. And the idea that we're going to, suggest that we're waiting for this to sort of end and then kind of see what world we wake up in. But we've already woke up in a new world. I got to be careful. I'm exposing my silver to way too much bleach. But we're in a new world. We're already in a new world. We're already existing in a reality that was not here before. The last thing that was anything close to this were plagues and yellow fever and Spanish flu and and the like of over 100 years ago. So the world, this modern, technologically driven world that we all exist and live in today, it's still as it is. But we're in a very different scenario now. It's a new day now. It's a new day. It's a new time. I appreciate you all's love and support and attention. I appreciate your questions and comments. Please do type them in all capitals so that I can see them and separate them from the other conversation that might be going on in my chat. I also invite you to call me at area code 845-277-9143, 845-277-9143. When you're ready with your question, comment, or request, please do press the number 1 on your telephone keypad. I'll be more than happy to unmute your mic and bring you into the conversation. Guess what happened to me yesterday? Many of you know I'm a celebrity reader. I interact with many celebrities, and not just, entertainers and people you would see on TV, but politicians and many levels of well-known individuals in culture and society. But I sent out a birthday greeting acknowledgement a couple of days ago to one of the support team members for Arrested Development, and I actually got a retweet and a response back from Arrested Development for doing so. They follow me and I follow them. I really like my old school artists. And I know at my age how old school really is, Chuck D or Arrested Development. But for many of you, that's pretty old school. We're talking about the 80s, the 90s, and even going into 2000. So I like following and communicating with some of our older artisans who've been around for a minute, who are now not just, self-promoting their careers, but are actively involved in politics and grassroots organization and what's going on in society, at various levels. Another hip hop artist that I have some favor for is Sister Souljah. I love Sister Souljah. She only did that one album, never tried to rap or come up with anything else again. But I followed her career, her parenthood, her being a mother and being active in her community. And I still keep up with Sister Souljah even till this day, with what she might be doing or where she might be speaking, or where she might be making a difference at the grassroots level. So I just thought I would mention that I was really surprised to get a response from them, and particularly in Twitter, and then to have them follow as well. I use my social media. You all have heard me say that before. Many of you are underusing your social media, or you're using your social media for foolishness, when indeed we have an opportunity to reach out to all sorts of people all over the world at various degrees and stratospheres of society, from the highs to the lows, from the ins to the outs, and really have an opportunity to make a difference, to spread positive energy, to spread development, growth, love, and understanding at the grassroots level. And so that's how I use my social media on any given day. I see I got another caller. I think that's Kiona. Hold on, I'm still opening your mic. 323, Kiona, beloved, is that you? 323, area code?
Yes, it is. I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good mood today.
I'm so glad. Yeah, shout it out.
I reached out. I told you about my problem. You gave me the best advice. And so I kept thinking about it. And then I really just prayed for the answer. So I'm like, I need help. Like, I really need to figure this out. Is this my path? And so this morning, it was just like downloads just started coming to me. So I reached out to someone that's in the industry, and they just told me how to get started. And I'm like, what? I didn't know what to do. Like, I honestly didn't know. And he said, for the mere fact that you didn't sit around and not know and give up and that you reached out to me, he said, that tells me that you're a strong person right there, that you were willing to ask for help.
Right.
So I'm in a good mood.
That's right. People will not ask for help. Listen, I can't tell you how many times I've been teaching and know I'm using foreign words, foreign languages, or maybe just really, really big English words that most people don't use, only to have people nod, yeah, uh-huh, and never say they didn't understand what I said. My mother is a retired teacher, so I've seen that at the school level. You know, the child sits in the class and doesn't understand what's being said, doesn't understand what's going on, doesn't understand the homework assignment, and never says anything, never asks for help, never questions. And when we sit around in that environment, nothing good can sort of come out of that. You know, you do end up negative or depressive or having it affect your career and your advancement in the career in a way that it never really had to. You know, just picking up the phone and reaching out, however you reached out, you did so. You know, that's 50% of the answer right there. You reached out. And I'm happy that you got the answer that you sought. I talked about that yesterday, the number of people who desire something from me, but don't know how to ask for it. And think that it's always about the money. It's always about the donation. And then it's not always about the donation. It's about people's disposition. It's about people's energy. It's about people's motivation. And then the words you put together when you reach out to me. You know, I pay attention to that. So I'm happy for you, Keon. I'm glad that that's moving forward for you and so quickly.
Thank you, because I don't mind pulling my mask off, because you can't help what you can't heal what you can't reveal. So I pull my mask off. I'm willing to be vulnerable and transparent, because that's where my help is.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit will speak through you, ancestors will speak through you, and speak right to that wound, right to that scar, and stitch me right on up so I can go on down the road and help somebody else.
And I
So I
find
don't mind.
and I find that to be a even bigger challenge for men who will not ask for help, don't know how to ask for help. I think in some ways in our society, women can co-depend on each other, can co-relate to each other a lot easier, and have that space, girl time as we call it, to reach out to the sisterhood for information. I don't know that men always have that, and in our community, in communities of color. So I think that's an important point to make. Being able to ask for help, being willing to ask for help, being willing to reach out, if you will, and get that you need in order to move forward. I see it as a self-care move. I'm gonna always ask for what I need.
Do it all.
That's right. That's right. And once you stand in that truth, what you need will come to you. What you need will come to you. And if not the resource directly, the person, the avenue by which you gain access to the resource will come to you directly. So that's a great mindset, a great attitude, a great position to take. It's a great power to walk in. I say every day we create and recreate our reality with our tongue. And so those who remain quiet, remain silent, or sit and sulk and criticize and recreate that negative energy within you, you can't expect to be anything but stuck. You can't expect to be anything but jammed in, blocked in, backed into a corner. At some point, you've got to ask for help. At some point, you've got to ask for what you need. At some point, you've got to speak your truth. Otherwise, you just continue to suffer. You just continue to recreate that reality and that pattern continues to remanifest itself for you. Even if the people, the players change, you leave one relationship and start a new one, but you still draw that same energy back to you if you don't learn to ask for help, if you don't learn to seek direction, if you don't learn to reach out to your elders and older people. And they don't have to be your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, to choose the old lady down the block, choose the old man, 2 streets over, befriend someone, get to know someone, who you feel a greater sense of anonymity, who won't run back, with your business, to your friends and family. But we've got to better access, and I believe we're doing that. We're being forced to do that right now under this stay-at-home, scenario. Uh, we're being forced to re-examine our resources, what's available to us, who's available to us, how we communicate, how we reach out, how we get things done. All of that has to be re-examined right now under the present conditions in which we are sitting in. So I'm learning to get my food through the mail. I'm learning to get my supplies, and my zigzag, very favorite reps from offline and through the mail. We just can't do things the way we've always done them. And for people who are already spiritually in tune, this is just another opportunity to play around with that energy, to create and recreate, in a way that's new and innovative, and do things that have never ever been done before under these present conditions. I appreciate you, Justice, for your active participation in the chat. I see all of your
And guess what else?
yes.
I'm going to say this and I'm going to move on because we got to move on and talk about other things. But you know how I was complaining that everybody wanted to charge? The person who helped me charges $100 an hour, and they talk to me for free.
That's a
And I
blessing.
didn't even ask for anything for free.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing. Yes.
I'm moving on, but I'm so happy.
Yeah, you got to ask for what you need. You got to put it out there in the universe, and it absolutely will come to you. I can't see my chat at all, so if there are any questions are in there.
Justice just said you're welcome, and then also I wanted to say when you were saying how people are saying that this virus is a conspiracy and they're not taking it serious, and then another thing that's bothering me, which I think was not bothering me, but I think it's funny when they say, "Oh, it's 5G." Do they not know that China already has 6G?
If
6G is already launched.
Yeah,
What do they mean 5G?
yeah, if not better, if not better. The last time I saw, a documentary or a news program about technology, Asia was way ahead. I mean, way ahead. Japan and China were using gadgets and equipment that we have never even seen in the U.S. So you're absolutely right. They may have better than 6G. They absolutely may have better than it. So we jump on, I like the creativity sometimes that goes into these rumors and this propaganda and these conspiracy theories. But man, if they would just apply that creativity to real subject matter, to real technology, to real creative endeavors, just imagine what those people could be creating. But they spend time creating these rumors and these fake news and these viral posts primarily for attention, for the likes, to see it travel. And often when you get this stuff, particularly like in your messenger, for instance, it's being passed on by, your friend, your family member, someone who's attached to you in social media, but the originator of the post name ain't even attached to it. So it's not like they're getting, name recognition, name, infamy, but they're sitting back as technologically driven individuals and are watching their programs and their viruses and the like spread the globe in social media and see you respond to it, see you act up in it. So no, I've never went for the whole. I was late even hearing about the 5G rumor, to be quite honest. I think it was already well out there before I even heard about it the first time. And upon hearing it, I knew it was foolishness. Like right off, I knew it was foolishness. And I still can't understand the level of attention that that's getting. Yes, Justice, I've watched documentaries about Chinese robots and other technology. So, Keona, I think they got greater than 6G. I really do. I think they're doing much
I
better
do
than that.
too.
Yeah. Blissful Divination asks, what are my thoughts on using crystal grids to energetically support affected areas around the world? I absolutely support that. Um, crystals is like my first tool. So gridding is something that's like second nature to me, all over the house in various degrees and various forms of gridding, but also using it to absolutely extend beyond my space, my physical reach, my country, my city, and sending that healing, helpful, beneficial energy out to other parts of the world. I listen to Coast AM sometimes. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Coast to Coast AM comes on talk radio. Some of you might not be aware of it because it's often on uh, talk radio news stations that often support a lot of that Republican, Democrat, liberal, back and forth nonsense. So often you sort of speed right past it on the radio dial when you're tuning in. But often that stops at 11 midnight at night, and then Coast to Coast AM, originally hosted by Art Bell, comes on, and they talk about everything from ghosts to supernatural occurrences to alien contact and alien intervention in society. And so, of course, technology and some of the other stuff that we're talking about is also referenced on this program. And so, gridding, they often are scared to even discuss or suggest gridding or thought projection from this platform, Coast to Coast, out of a fear of it having sort of a negative connotation. For instance, drought, drought, months and months of drought, and then you get a group of people who decide they're going to focus their energy on rain, and then you experience hurricane, then you experience flooding, negative repercussions. So people aren't always clear about how to grid or focus their energy at remote locations, and it be beneficial, be helpful, as opposed to having a destructive element. So be very careful about your words when you're doing this type of gridding. Don't create loopholes. Don't create openings where there's any question about your word or language usage. Particularly if you're talking about, drought, like the example I just gave, or war, or even hunger. Use absolute positive phrases, references, imagery, as you do that sort of work, that sort of gridding. But I'm confident in quartz crystal's ability to protect even itself from negative usage. So I support that, and particularly with the usage of crystal, I absolutely support that. Greetings, Tamara Bragg, and anyone who I may have missed in the course of things. I appreciate you. Yeah, I use a lot of gridding, always have. I can operate in what we call that dream state when you're conscious in your dreams, lucid dreaming. I've had lucid dreaming events where I used crystals, crystal gridding, fairy dust, over war scenes, over calamities. over tragic areas. So I support that. Connected to my private line, so my Skype goes off and it's happening because when those calls come through, the stream is interrupted, and I sort of go into a buffering. So my YouTube live, they don't hear when I get those interruptions. But Blog Talk Radio, you unfortunately can hear when the calls come through and sort of interrupt the stream of the show. So I appreciate you all's patience and understanding when that happens. I invite you now to call me at area code 845-277-9143. I have several people already on the phone lines who are just listening in. I invite you to press the number 1 with your questions or comments and come right on in. Of course, my 2 previous open mics, your mics will always remain open till the end of the show. You just need to unmute yourself and just jump right back on in with your question, comment, or request. Indeed, when you have one. Yeah, Justice, I'm looking at your comment again.
I'm up in here.
Give me a second. I'm looking at Justice's comment again about the robots used to deliver meals to the people who were sick with COVID. Not only did they have these spectacular robots, but masking. We know that they demanded masking universally in China and many areas of Asia. Universally means everybody. Whether you have it or didn't have it, whether you were young or old, everybody had to mask. We still aren't seeing that here. Even when it's being asked for. It's being asked for in New Orleans by our mayor. But yet I'm still seeing delivery people walking around, with no mask, no handkerchief, no bandana, no nothing, Kiona. I thought that was Kiona I was just talking to. Who did I just hear?
That was me. That was me, Julia.
Oh, Julia, yeah. I thought you were interrupting to say something.
You answered it.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
good. Sorry.
Okay. All is a blessing. Yes, it's mandatory where Kiona is. Masking acted immediately, Justice, immediately, with the full PPEs, immediately. It just took some time for that to work its way back to our politicians, our government, our people that are in charge. Now, I'll tell you on the ground level, at the grassroots level, I didn't wait. My mama didn't wait. I know many people here in the community who, as I every day, I brag about reading everybody's news every day. So we knew what was happening long before there was any order of protection sit down by our politicians or our government. We were already protecting ourselves. I had already put in for my order of PPEs and whatnot. In fact, I just got another shipment of PPEs and face masks yesterday. So I'm not even trying to hear what ain't available. I'm not even trying to hear what can't be found. This is my second delivery in the last week. So I'm not getting it when I'm hearing hospitals and whatnot about what they can't get access to, what's not available. And I'm sure the masks that I'm getting are coming from China. So yeah, I Lysol down the package, the plastic, everything when I get it. I've even sprayed Lysol on some of my PPEs and let them dry before I wore it because I was a little bit paranoid, Justice, about the fact that the PPEs were even coming from China. But they are available. Yeah, I know they good now, Kiona. I know. But I'm still paranoid. I don't know how long that pack of masks sat on the shelf back in China. And we're hearing now that this virus can live on surfaces for days. Not hours, days. days. And in some cases, they aren't sure how long it can live on surfaces. I've heard from the scientific community that it can exist on your shoes for 3 days. So I'm not playing with y'all. I'm not playing with y'all. I'm not playing with the government. I'm not playing with the media. I'm not playing with you. I'm not playing with nobody when it comes to Miss Rona. I'm not playing. I will be the survivor. I will live to tell the story. Okay. I will live to help some of you all recover and some of you all's families to recover. I told one of my best friends, somebody in my soulmate clan, just yesterday, because he still don't believe it. It's a conspiracy. Make sure your mama and them got my number, because I want to be at the funeral. If you don't believe it, if you still think that this is just some,
You won't be at that You won't be at that funeral because they got people looking through the windows.
yeah, I know, I know. At least I want to be informed about it. I want to be informed about the funeral. I want the option to
Right?
send a card and some flowers, in my absence. But at least I want to know. But if that's y'all's attitude, the information, I know during storms and whatnot, people are writing they social security number and their name and address and stuff on their body in case people find their body after the tornado, after the hurricane. Well, I look at this in a very similar way. And if y'all think this ain't real, this won't affect you, be sure we have all your contact information. Be sure we know your family and your people in them, so that if something happens, we can respond. I have a friend missing right now on Facebook. Some of you may know him. Nigerian. He's a Nigerian American, but he's always posting and writing in Ifa, in Odus. And I haven't seen him now in like a month. And his Facebook page has been deactivated. So I don't know if he's just not wanting to hear and make contact with what all is happening and being said, or if something has happened to him. But there are people who are disappearing. When I make a seat for someone new on my Facebook, some of you don't realize you can only have 5,000 friends and you can only follow 5,000 people. Now, more people can follow you, but you can't follow more than 5,000 people, and you can't befriend more than 5,000 people. So every time I get a new person, colleague, friend, family, who I need to add, I have to scroll through and find those deactivated counts and then unfriend that person and give them that seat. Well, I'm going through now and I'm finding, man, so many, not deactivated, but people that are just missing, that are just not there and have not responded in some time. So, girl, we got to take yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
My therapist is from Nigeria. She's been in the States for almost 10 years, and I spoke to her just the day before yesterday and asked her about the situation back home in the motherland. And she told me that a lot of the news is not true, especially coming from over there. A lot of the people are just hunkering down, especially in her villages and the surrounding villages there. She told me directly that they are just hunkering down and staying away from it.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. But think about where we're talking about. Now I'm sure she's not talking about Lagos, a big modern city like New York City. But if you're in the country, in a rural area in Nigeria, yeah, you can control who's coming in and out of your village. You can control who's coming. But the problem is those areas that don't have clean water, that don't have clean resources, it makes it very hard for them to be hygienic. How do you stay hygienic when you don't have running water? Hi, me from Florida. Please forgive the interruption. But not just in Nigeria, beloved, even in America, Um, think about the homeless teens that are on the street right now, the homeless children that are on the street right now in the U.S. who don't
Yeah.
have immediate
Yeah.
access to a bathroom or sanitation or means to protect themselves. It's a big deal. I keep up a great deal with what goes on in particularly in Nigeria, Ghana, the Congo, DR Congo, and they do have the virus. People are dying. It has made its way to that region of the world. Like you said, like your friend suggested, they are hunkering down. They are staying, in place, in their village, in their communities. But these bigger cities, it's still a problem. It's still problematic. I do think that they were more apt, more quickly hunkered down than we did here in the Americas because they are, to some degree, a little bit more accustomed to calamities. Ebola is right on their footsteps. Ebola is still out there right now in both West and East
Yeah.
Africa. So they're a little bit better prepared, I think, for the warning of a calamity or a disease that might be afoot than we are here in the States, where
Yeah.
we tend to be a little bit
Yeah.
arrogant and self-serving and pious, about our ability to be the best country in the world. Every day we hear people say, this shouldn't be happening in our country. This shouldn't be happening in America. Well, why not? It's happening in almost every other country on the planet. Why not would it not happen here in America? So we can be a little pious and a little arrogant sometimes in our knowledge and our technology and our assumed availability of resources. And so all the people that are looking for milk right now, that are looking for toilet paper right now, that are looking for eggs right now, I haven't been able to buy eggs in 2 weeks from nowhere. Okay, and when it is available, they're not delivering. I noticed that Walmart has gone from 2 day scheduling now to 4 or 5 day scheduling. So I just got a Walmart delivery today and today is Wednesday, that I got the appointment for on Saturday. And I now have another
Amazon
appointment.
Prime too.
Yeah, and I now have another appointment with Walgreens. Now I hear somebody cussing and calling somebody a bitch in the background. I don't know what that's about, but we can hear you. And I now have an appointment for this coming Sunday that I just got today for Walmart. And so Amazon is the same, Whole Foods is the same. So if you can find a food item, getting it delivered is now the challenge. If you got people who are PPP'd up, and prepared hygienically to go into the stores for you or your community, I strongly suggest that. I strongly suggest that. And not necessarily the younger people either. The older people, now 50 and over, 55 and over, who you already know is practicing great hygiene, who got they mask and whatnot on point and together, let them go to the store and then bring that back to your older people. But it's more than a notion right now, beloved. Just getting some normal things. I'm going back to baking because you can't get bread, for instance. It's hard to get right now. And then when they do get it, everybody is going and getting it and stocking up. And I got 2 loaves right now. I'm lying. I got 3 loaves right now that I'm getting ready to stick in the freezer. That came today, so that I'm not struggling for bread again in 2 weeks, because this is going to flare up again, y'all. People got loose during Easter. People are getting bored after 2 weeks in the house, 3 weeks in the house. People assume that things are okay, things are safe. This is going to flare up again. So stock up. Stock up now while you can. Get what you can while you can. Don't hoard, but stock up. Stock up. Please hit that number one. All you all that are on this phone right now, listen to me. Hit that number one. You got questions, you got comments, you got an opinion. Call me now at 845-277-9143 and press that number one on the telephone keypad, and I will open up your mic. Yes, Kiona, this monster has life expectancy. This ain't gonna clean up in 2 weeks, y'all. Come on. Come on. They leaked today in the mainstream media that it's gonna be something that I already told you. It's gonna be at least a year before there's any kind of vaccine for this. So the idea that we're gonna be walking around like ain't nothing happening in July or August or even September is crazy. That ain't happening. School has been canceled in Louisiana for the remainder of the year. School has been canceled. And the idea that school will kick in September, I doubt it. I doubt it very seriously. And the amount to get PPEs, protective coverings, make all those adjustments to all the schools in the nation between now and October, now and September, it ain't happening, y'all. That's not even realistic. It's not even realistic. So I don't see NFL. I don't see a football season. And they're now, arguing back and forth about whether they're going to have sports with nobody sitting in stands. But many teams are now pulling out of even that assumption, because you're still asking your team members to either quarantine together for months, and be away from their family and then play and perform, etc. There's no other way around this. So yeah, schools for us, justice is over for this year. Schools for Louisiana are done. And the idea that schools are going to kick right back up again in September is highly questionable. Highly questionable. Our mayor and our governor have canceled all public festivals and events for the remainder of the year, for the remainder of 2020. So I'm telling you, Mardi Gras Day for 2021 is questionable. I was the first to say it. Right here live on air. Write that down on your calendar. DivinePrince said at 1:44 p.m., April 15th, 2020, that it wasn't going to be no Mardi Gras Day 21. Y'all not being realistic about this. And remember, you all who are into propaganda and conspiracy theories, there's the fear factor. As frightful as this is, they still don't want to scare people, Justice. So they're not quick to say how bad this really is. They're not quick to say your year has been canceled. They're not quick to say that, Jennifer, because it would create panic among people who are doing nothing for a minute. Okay? We're not moving for a good minute. It's going to take time for technology and biology and medicine to catch up to this. Okay? Yeah, the presidential election may very well be postponed. And a reason that they are not quick to say that is because, okay, now how scary is it that you got to accept Donald Trump without an election, whether you want to or not? Now how scary is that? Okay, that he might be in position longer because we can't have no election, because we can't take no. They're gonna find. Now I guarantee you, they're gonna find a way to make sure that that don't happen. They gonna move elections to online, to computer technology. They gonna get that together quick. And somebody in the media made note that Trump votes online or through the mail, But he gets on TV and says that it's not to be trusted, that it's not safe, that it's not secure. So yeah, the election, that was a good one. That was a good one, Kiona. The election is a toss-up right now, y'all. It's a toss-up. They're not. Maybe that's why Wendy Williams crying and emotional every day on her program, because people are really beginning to get a clue. They are beginning to get a clue. This ain't no joke. This ain't no joke. This ain't temporary. This ain't the storm that's gonna blow in and blow out like our winter storms, like our summer storms. That's not what this is, y'all. It's not what this is. It's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new day. We are not going back to what we thought we had. We're not. We can't. It's a new day. It's a new day. Yeah, Keon, I see you. I hear you. I'm concerned about the politics of this thing as well. I see Justice said he then took out the treadmill again. Yeah, we have to exercise. We have to keep ourselves in shape, particularly now. I'm more conscious now of how much I sit in this chair than ever before. So I'm doing more calisthenics and more exercises. I'm eating more. I don't want to start calling out people by name, but some of our local personalities who we see on TV every day, I'm seeing them pick up weight. And people are sitting at home eating. Madeline Albright, I know I said I wasn't going to call names. She was on TV yesterday. She's picked up a little bit of weight. People are sitting down. People are eating. People are ordering out, and so we have to remember, Kiona, to also stretch and exercise and be active and move our bodies around for our well-being. I hear you, blissful divination. Chilling and just eating. Is that the most common response that you get? Is that they just chilling and eating? Yeah, I have some friends like that, and I got to stress to them every day that, you're an activist, you're an actor, you're an entertainer, you're a spoken word artist. You got to be actively pursuing your fifth, sixth, and seventh chakra activities, along with your lower chakra activities. So get up, exercise, run in place. I've been running back and forth through the house, even when I don't feel like, running around the block. We have to be active. We have to be. Portia, having a mask on during the speeches is only propaganda. And all propaganda ain't negative. Some propaganda is useful. So, our mayor, Cantrell, she'll come out with her mask on. But then the minute you start talking, you got to take it off. So when we see, the president or politician with a mask on, it's just to send a message that this is what you should be doing. This is what you need to be doing. Now, what I have a problem with, Portia, is everybody touching the podium, everybody touching the stand, everybody touching the mic, and then they step back and sort of that fake 6 degrees of separation thing. I've seen the mayor do it. I've seen our governor do it. I've seen the president do it. And they're all sort of standing back there, but everybody's touching the stand. Everybody's touching the mic. Everybody's grabbing the podium. So I'm much more concerned about that than I am Trump is not wearing a mask, because just standing there, how easy is it? Just standing there, a mosquito hit your eyelash, you're going to respond to that. And you're outside, at the White House. You're outside, at City Hall. You're outside. A fly brush you're going to respond. You're going to go for your face. You're going to brush, but you just grab the podium. You just grab the mic. No, they're not disinfecting. No, nobody's got a hand wipe. No one's got a Clorox towel. So yeah, that's more disconcerting to me, Portia, than the fact that the orange man don't wear a mask. I mean, spiritual folk, religious folk ain't supposed to say bad stuff. so, so I don't want to say bad stuff right now. Maybe he wants to get the virus. I don't know. Maybe he wants to prove that he's invincible to the virus. I don't know. But I don't expect him to wear a mask, but I do expect them to be more conscious and more aware of that podium and what they're touching, how they're interacting with each other. That I'm very aware of. That I'm aware of. So yeah, I'm not tripping about him not wearing a mask, not live on air. I don't expect that from any of them. But how they act, from the neck down, we are all paying attention to that. We're all looking at that. Yeah, hand sanitizer is great. I'm kind of funny about hand sanitizers because there is, that thing where we could be breaking down our natural immunity by overusing hand sanitizers. So I'm a bleach queen. I'm a bleach king. I like bleach. I like Clorox. Before this happened, Spirit already had me in tune. I mean, I was ordering huge supplies of cleaning stuff Halloween, September, October, November 2019. So I got plenty of bleach. I got bleach for you. And so I like bleach. I like a sink full of bleach, a bucket full of bleach, and I'm going from the front to the back, from top to the bottom, with that sudsy bleach water. These packages will dry. I will subsequently go back in and flip them over and spray the other side before I cut the boxes open. And then I'm going to dip everything in the box in the bleach water and wipe it off before I touch it. Bleach and ammonia is my best friend. Bleach and ammonia. As a hoodoo practitioner, I keep ammonia. Ammonia is critical to hoodoo practice. So I keep ammonia. Many of you don't understand how to do your candle magic. You got to clean your candles. You got to wipe your candles down. So I dip my rag, my clean white towel in bleach, sudsy lemon bleach water before I light my 7-day candles. I wipe them down and then up. Give me a second to grab a candle. Blog Talk Radio, because you can't see me moving. Okay, I got a candle in my hand, Blog Talk Radio, and I'm gripped the candle right around the middle. And so you're going to take your ammonia towel and you're going to bleach or clean your candle down. And then you're going to clean your candle going up. Just like that, going down and then going up. And then I take my towel and my finger and I wipe around just like that. The incense part, the top part, the inside part of my candle. Now you'll find that these candles will burn longer because often you're not getting the 7 days that you pay for, especially if you're buying cheap candles from the 99-cent store and the dollar store and Dollar Tree. Those candles ain't burning 7 days. They burn in 5 days, 6 days, but you got to clean them. Then I anoint them with anointed oil. Virgin olive, prayed over, consecrated virgin olive anointed oil. And then I do the same thing and I anoint my candle down. I anoint my candle up. And then I take and put some of that oil right in the top, just like that, before I light it. So those of you who are practicing, in truth, we clean anyway. We got cleaning supplies on hand anyway. I'm ready for the power to go out. I got candles to last forever, up in here. So we were already prepared. Everybody else is now playing catch up. Some of my conspiracy theorist people out there, you were already prepared. My blood sister, Wapani, she's a major conspiracy theorist. And I don't think that's a bad thing because her and her husband put it into action. So they got their supplies. They not gonna go without. They not gonna starve. They not gonna be in need. I talked about my family that lives in the country, that lives in a rural area. Folks that live in these trailers. Y'all making fun about these trailers. Y'all don't understand these new 3, 4, 5, 6 bedroom double wide trailers. They not no joke. And many of them have a whole hidden room in the kitchen. You pull that pantry out, you pull that broom closet out, and the whole wall opens up like a door. It's like a safe room. But you can stack, canned goods and supplies in there. I know people in my family who have that, and it's stacked to the top. So some of us were prepared for nonsense. Some of us who read magical books, who read Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, we just been waiting for this to happen. Didn't know when, didn't know what time, didn't know how, but we knew something was coming. We knew something was going to happen, and so we were prepared for it. Everyone else is just playing catch up now. Kiona, it ain't no such thing as cleaning too much, is it? Is it? And yes, Julia Rose, people do not understand cross-contamination. They
90
they
seconds.
really don't. Just a simple act of using the same butter knife from the jelly to the peanut butter, from the peanut butter back to the jelly, creates cross-contamination. And all foods and all matter should not be stored together like that. One breaks down at a different level than the other. One produces a gas or chemical that the other one doesn't, that affects the quality of that food. Even if you're familiar with the ripening of fruit and vegetables. And so they'll tell you to put your apples, and the bananas in a bag together, to mix certain types of fruit, certain types of produce in the bag with another type, because it produces this reaction that helps the other fruit to age a little bit. So yeah, a lot of people don't understand cross-contamination and how that works at all. Someone in my childhood worked for the government in terms of safety and security, and cross-contamination was something that I was educated about at a very young age. So I'm very conscious and very aware about
10 seconds.
cross-contamination and mixing things up together, and then subsequently getting a bad result. Yes, your onions will sprout if you store them with your potatoes. Blissful Divination shared that in the chat. So yeah, people aren't. You can't get your mustard in your mayonnaise, and your mayonnaise in your mustard. You can't do that. I don't store meat, with my cooked vegetables. If you baked it separately, you're gonna wrap it and store it separately. If you cooked it separately, it should be stored separately. That's just a common, basic hygiene 101. Okay. Yeah, bananas on a hook last longer, and bananas peel easier from the end, not from the stem. Apes and monkeys don't peel bananas from the stem. They peel them from that button end. And if you've never tried it, if you squeeze that end, it comes right off. Much easier than trying to open a banana from the stem end. Man, we're getting off on many digressive topics right now, but they're all good. I know everything about floor wash, beloved. for your wood floors, for your tiled floors, for your concrete floors, but even for your carpeted floors. There's a way to sprinkle and spray and apply floor washes even in your carpeted areas. Um, and you want to clean with, to some degree, what you're trying to do. Ammonia, for instance, is general cleaning, protection, defense. But then if I want, prosperity, or wealth or healing or peace, then I might look at rainwater versus storm water, sweet water, and what ingredients are going into the floor wash, or the spray, is very important in terms of getting the result that you desire. I love rose petals and rose hips, and often when I receive flowers or come in contact with them, you know how somebody might have them at the office, or at a hospital, or whatever, and they're dried up, they're dehydrated. I'm the guy who's going to ask for those. Can I have those? I'm going to take those and use those dried, dehydrated rose petals, and I like to grate them and break them up and put them down on the floor, down in the carpet, mix them in a spirit bath, mix them in a cleansing bath. I can talk for another 2 hours just on floor washes. And I think all floor washes should be homemade. I believe all spirit baths should be homemade. And if they're not homemade, if I'm sending it to you in the mail, then it's going to be in a reused jar, a recycled jar, a plastic bag. But I don't support commercial floor washes. Don't support it. You don't know what's in it. You don't know how real it is. You don't know how much attention has been paid to the ingredients. Often there's food coloring and food dyes added to it to give it the color of red, to give it the color of blue, to give it the color of green, to give it the color of purple. And they don't have nothing to do with organic matter and material, herbs and roots that might really exist in the floor wash, in the head wash, in whatever the commercial labeled up product might be. I know in some of these stores, some of these botanicas, and particularly online, we see people now creating their own bath, their own oil mixture, and you can kind of see, stuff, in the bottle, but you don't often see no ingredient lists. You don't often see what has been added to it. So I don't trust the commercial floor washes. I don't trust the commercial spirit baths, for the most part. Sweet baths that are already pre-made. Some of the products that go into these baths and washes are absolutely perishable, like your dairy products and some of your other products. So this stuff should be made fresh. This stuff should be made anew. I promised one of my godchildren, and he knows who I'm talking to, that I would send him some moss from Louisiana. And this all happened during that period when I was filming, if you all can remember, back in January, going into February, right before all of this kicked off. My schedule was already delayed, and I didn't get it into the mail. And now, the country is shut down to some degree. And now it's just sitting in the temple room. There's no way I'm going to mail that to him. Now I've got to go out and harvest fresh moss, fresh herb, fresh root, fresh incense, your boxed up incense. And I know y'all love that Nag Champa. I know. But get fresh Nag Champa. That boxed Nag Champa is usually several years old by the time you get it. That's why you can get so much of it for 99 cents. That's why you can get 300 sticks at the corner Arab store for 99 cents, because that stuff is very, 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 very old. My incense have oil still in the bag, because it's fresh dipped incense. And even when that dries out, it's got color. Look at the color of your incense stick. If it's color of sand, it's too dry. If it's that pale beige or lighter, it's too dry. If it's not the color of tea, of coffee, then all the oil that was applied to it is dried up, and you're getting dehydrated product, and so you're smelling the stick. You're smelling the camel dung and the cow dung, because you know that's what they roll a lot of that incense with is animal dung, and then they dip it in the oil to soak up the fragrance. So a lot of that product is old and dried up. A lot of your teas that you're getting out of the store is old, more than a year or 2 years old. If you've never grown your own herbs, you have no idea what fresh produced tea tastes like. And even if I pull the peppermint out of my yard and let it dry, because I don't use a dehumidifier, I'll let it dry naturally. There's a way to do that and retain the oils in your product. Tastes completely different than any box of 2-year old. That's justice. All that stuff be dried up often. Your incense be dried up. Your tea products be dried up. Even our coffee, has been allowed to be roasted and dried, and then it's graded down. But your coffee is going to maintain a completely different level of freshness, particularly if you keep it in the refrigerator, than your incense or your tea products will. And if you are a coffee drinker, you should be keeping your coffee in the refrigerator. Once I open that coffee, if it's in a bag, I pour it into my glass container and I keep it in a refrigerator where it maintains that humidity, where it retains that moisture and retains that freshness. Kiona, I love roots, and I'm going to assume we're talking about herb roots, the roots of basil, the roots of peppermint. Is that what we're talking about? I also like the flowering tops, the buds of all the herbs. I love the buds and the flowering tops. If you've never tasted basil, sweet basil flowers, and the buds that grow at the top, and they've got that sap and that sweetness trapped in it, it's the most wonderful thing. It's a reason why your butterflies and your bees, go for that, are drawn to that, are attracted to that. I have butterflies, by the way. I have bees, by the way, but I have plants. I've got garden. I've got edibles growing in my yard. So if all you've got is green lawns full of chemicals, full of herbicides, yeah, you probably aren't seeing a whole lot of bees. You probably aren't seeing a whole lot of butterflies in your luxury subdivision because you've killed off their environment. Their environment is being depleted. But if you're growing plants and herbs and flowers, then you have bees in your yard. You have butterflies in your yard. You might have some wildlife like possums and coons coming into your yard, depending on where you live, where you reside. Greetings, Nikki Walker. I see you, beloved. I see you, and I appreciate
Voodoo
you.
Occultist said he's on the phone line holding, but I don't know if he pressed the phone or not.
Let me see. He's not on the phone line. Oh, he is now. I see you now, beloved. Forgive me, because, your mic is open, Hoodoo Occultism. When I'm talking, often I get locked in on one browser, one tab. So if I'm looking at YouTube Live and I'm talking, I forget to pay attention. I forget to go back to my other tab and make sure I have callers online. So I appreciate you. Also, area code 305, I'm going to come to you next. Hoodoo Occultism. Go ahead, beloved. Greetings.
How you doing?
All is a blessing in yourself.
I'm doing fine. Just, still at work. How you doing, Keon?
Hey, I was on mute. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Just saying hello to you because you know you've been speaking to me lately.
And are you sure?
Thank you. That's what spirit does. That's what spirit does.
And you sure you're okay, beloved? Because your vocal tones sound different.
No, I'm just real calm today. I'm calm. I wanted to make a comment before I ask the question though.
Okay.
Now, everybody been getting the stimulus check, right?
Most people, some people, not everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not everybody, but yeah. You I got you on the stimulus check.
Yeah.
that stimulus check coming to you.
Yeah,
because
because
I'm just gonna pay for most of the initiation. If I can get in after the reading, but that's what the money's gonna go towards right there.
yeah, and it's a donation. You're not paying for initiation. It's a donation towards your initiation, and I appreciate that because
Okay.
I ain't got no stimulus check. I don't know where the people on permanent disability and Social Security. I don't know where their stimulus check is, but I haven't gotten mine. I know one of my sisters has gotten hers. Last I checked, my mama, who's retired, haven't gotten hers. So maybe it's on the way. Maybe it's a process. Maybe we too far in the South. I don't know, but we haven't gotten ours yet. So yeah, I appreciate that. I do. And
I haven't got mine yet, but I get it sometime this week. You know what I mean? But
and it's been
when
busy.
I do get it.
And it's been busy, beloved. Let me tell you, people right now are getting their initiations done. They're getting their work done. And it's not just lip service. I mean, I'm getting pictures. I'm seeing the shrine work. People are really, really doing it right now. I don't want to call out a whole bunch of people, but Kayla and a few other people on the sound of my voice, you know who you are. They're working it out, and they're really serious right now during this whole pattern that the country is in about handling their homework and getting their spirit work done. So I'm here for you, beloved. I appreciate you. And when you're ready to move forward, let's just.
I'm here for you, beloved.
Yeah, let's just do that.
And when you're ready to move forward, the question I wanted to ask was, can you talk a little bit? You don't have to get nothing major, but can you talk a little bit about Shango's dad? I forget how to pronounce the name.
Iganyu.
But
Iganyu
right?
is Shango's dad. He's often associated, Erico 305, I'm coming to you momentarily. He's often associated with primordial heat, primordial fire. So we say Shango, Kabi Osile, and we say thunder, and we say lightning. But when we think of Shango's dad, we think of primordial fire, and symbolically that's often associated with like volcanoes and the heat that exists beneath the earth. That heat, that fire that's only brought forth when it burst through earth, when it burst through the crust of earth, if you will, and then manifest in our creation, in our life, in our reality. It also alludes to eternal heat, eternal fire. Our bodies require, a certain degree of heat, a certain degree of fire, to keep us alive, to break down our food, for our digestive processes. So there's many stories and patakis that go with Iganyu and who God Iganyu is, and how Iganyu manifests and comes forward. Yes, he is absolutely associated with being Shango's father, if you will, but he is one of the least understood and lesser studied and examined deities that I'm often talking about, how we acknowledge Orisha romance, Shango, Oshun, Yemaya, Eshu, because those are names that are so common, names that are global, names that have traversed not just the Middle Past, but modernization, have traversed continents, to show up in our everyday activity. But deities like Ori, like Igon Yu, we don't hear a lot about, not African Americans. Now, you go into the Latin community, you go into the Hispanic community, you go into Lukumi and Santeria and Palo, south of the border, they're aware, but as I've said in previous shows, um, and I know it's aggressive. I know it sounds controversial and challenging when I say it, but it's the truth. Nigeria has opened up their way to the Hispanic community in a way that they have not done. Over the centuries, they have developed a relationship, because Cuba's relationship with Oshogbo and Oyo and Nigeria and Ifa goes back to enslavement, where they were allowed to sort of maintain that structure. We weren't allowed to do that north of the border. Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, we weren't allowed to do that. And you could only do it in New Orleans, in Louisiana, in Congo Square on a Sunday. And even that is toned down. Even that is toned down. Let's put it in a slave context. Every massa in town know where you are on Sunday. They know where you're going. They know how long you're going to be there. And they know what expectation they have for. Don't think about Congo Square in a modern context. Think about where I live right now being a swamp still, being the unincorporated area still. The French Quarter was New Orleans proper. Is unincorporated area. So that's where Congo Square would have been during that time. So Massa would have come through there on his horse and see what was going on and make sure everybody was doing what they supposed to do and was handling their business. So even then, the deities had to be kept secret. Even then, our knowledge of voodoo and practice had to be kept covered and hidden, unless we would be lynched, if not killed, once we made it back home. So many of these deities got lost over time. Their names got lost. Their rhythms got lost. Their symbolism got lost, or in some cases, separated into the new representation of that deity, the new evolution of that deity. Now, in this context, this Western modern 305. I'm trying to come to you. In fact, I've tried to open your mic like 3 times. And every time I open your mic, I get all that background noise. So area code 305, I really need you to mute your YouTube. Who's calling and where are you calling from?
Greetings, DivinePrince.
Greetings, who's calling and where are you calling from?
This is Nikisha.
Nikisha, beloved, I need you to turn your YouTube. Okay, good. Go ahead with your question or comment, beloved.
No, I already had typed it in the chat already. I just want to say thank you to you and as well as Kiona for everything. I love and I make sure I get ready and have everything done before 1 o'clock just to be on time to come into the chat. So I'm just grateful and thankful for everything.
Thank you, and thank you so much for sharing that with us. If you had a question that you typed in the chat, I don't see it.
That's okay. It's okay. It wasn't a question. It was just something I was just saying to you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much. We certainly do appreciate you.
Yes.
And your line is still open, by the way. Everyone who's already on the phone, your lines are still open. All you need to do is just jump right in with your question or comment. Hoodoo occultism.
Hey,
Okay.
Go ahead.
what you were saying? Um, and I agree with you. What you're saying, for like the Hispanic community and the Ifa tradition is very heavy. But you know, do you feel that it's not getting watched down per se? But do you think it's too much commercialization with Ifa right now because it's expanded to everybody else?
I do. And it would be probably unfair for me to blame the Botanicas for that entirely. Even though, you've heard me say the Botanicas are in the business of money. Often these botanica owners, these shop owners don't believe in voodoo, don't have no knowledge of voodoo, don't care. They just want your money. And they know what's popular. And so they see the Orisha romance and the voodoo romance as it shows up in social media. So now every other person has a botanica. Now every other person is creating their own online at home. All I got to do is get it in the mail, and ship it to you. So in the course of that, this knowledge of what I need or what's important is being reinforced by what is being seen in the botanica or on the shelf. Oh, that's cute. That's interesting. Well, how much does that cost? Well, what does that do? What kind of love does that bring me? Is that going to help me? And the people who are selling the stuff, they're in the business to sell stuff. They're not in the business to say, well, I don't know what this is, or you don't know what this is, or how to use it, and you might want to seek some advice. You're not getting that at the Botanica. So you're seeing popularization, commercialization, what's in favor right now, what's a fad, what's fashionable right now. It's fashionable right now to be anti-church. It's fashionable right now to be anti-religion. Now, let me be clear for my new listeners who don't know me. I'm not anti-church. I'm not anti-religion. I don't support it. I don't go to the church anymore. I don't support Christianity anymore. But I don't have no problem with my mama doing it, or you doing it, or anybody else who's doing it authentically. Authentically. And knows what it is that you're reading, what you're proselytizing, what you're trying to share. They just following in faith. They just following blindly. So we see the same thing, beloved, in hoodoo now, in root work now, in conjure now. Many of you are still operating on faith from a very Christian perspective. You're just trying to remove the words. You're just trying to remove the imagery. You're just trying to remove the white iconology from it. But your inner clock and your inner machinery is still operating on religion because you haven't replaced it with anything. You haven't given it any new programming to operate with. So now we see the bastardization and appropriation of our cultures and our traditions. Everybody wants to do it. Everybody's in on it. Black, white, red, yellow, green, purple. Everybody now is getting on it because it might bring you favor. It might bring you followers you didn't have before. It might bring you a click, a like or two, at higher numbers than maybe what you were getting before because it's popularized. It's popularized. So yeah, I'm sure the Yoruba are rolling over in their grave. I'm sure. Araba Ella Baboon, I've seen the documents. I've seen the communications that he has sent out from Oshogbo in particular to the Western world, suggesting that you all are taking this too far. That your ceremonies were ritual. Your ceremonies were celebratory. Your ceremonies were just symbolic. You don't have any power. You don't have any position of leadership. They aren't even giving you the authority to sort of promote IFA in the West, the way it's being done in Cuba, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Brazil, etc. We don't even have, most of us, most of you, don't even have that authority. Now, I know I'm an exception, but I've had to work really hard to be an exception. I've had to build relationship across borders without a passport and getting on a plane to create relationship with Oba Obatala to the U.S., with Dagbo Honan II, and with Tuskegee out of Togo, Benin. I've had to work really hard to build those relationships, to build trust, to have an ongoing communication, to make that happen. But we're too quick in social media to fad everything. FADE. It's a fad. It's fashionable. So let me get those alekis. Let me get those beads. Let me post my candle up, on my Instagram, and make it look like I'm real deep, But we don't see the whirlwind of a mess that's in the rest of the room that ain't on camera. We don't see the whirlwind of a mess that is their finances or their loving relationships, or the other things. So yeah, the Yoruba are worked up right now, but they carry some responsibility in the proliferation of the practice and the tradition, and being so educated and being so literally skilled, that they're writing these books and they're putting this information out. But even Nigerians are working against themselves. So, some of the scammers that are now reaching out to you in Instagram got 1,500 people that they're following. Only a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen people are following them, and then they've got half a dozen really bloody looking E5 pictures. And they're reaching out to you right now in Instagram, in your DMs. Because they know this trend, Hoodoo occultism, is alive and kicking. And so they're quick to snatch up these people's money. They're quick to snatch up these people's time and energy and effort. They're quick to snatch it up. But yeah, it's been problematic for sure. You're not seeing, even though there is voodoo, authentic voodoo stuff in some of these shops, most people wouldn't know what it was or how to identify it or what to do with it. So when you go into the average botanica, you're seeing Catholic symbolisms, and then you're seeing a whole bunch of Orisha. Then you're seeing some hoodoo stuff, some witchcraft stuff, some stuff that's just been made up. The good luck this and the lucky charm that, and the fast money this and the fast money that. All of that is just made up. All of that is just made up to match your expectation, to match your desire of what the magic should look like, what the magic should produce, what should come forward. It's not real. Because in these traditions, ATR, there's always going to be a power at the center, a force at the center, an Orisha, a Loa, a deity, the Voodoos at the center of whatever the request is that we're seeking. And often that you're not seeing that. You might see symbolism, but it's not explained. It's not in any detail. We've talked about colors before. Oshun color ain't yellow. Oshun's color is not gold. But you buying a yellow Oshun candle. I got a yellow Oshun candle, but I know it's just a yellow candle, not an Oshun quote unquote candle. They can slap, a picture of Eshu on anything. I love reversible candles. I like the power and the intent behind your red and black reversible candles. But you don't really think that overlaid image of Eshu on it has any real power, do you? You don't think because it's a reversible that gives it any real power, do you? I've seen some reversible candles that wasn't red and black. I'm assuming that they ran out of red and black and created some other candles and still slapped reversible on it. That's not what gives it power. That's the intent is what gives it power. The knowledge that we feed into the ritual is what gives it power. The words, the chants, the songs that we sing, where we're focusing our concentration, that's what brings in the power. And then, of course, the power of God and Orisha and Loa and ancestors themselves to impart. But all this symbolism, you know, especially those of you who don't have basic symbolism 101, you're too caught up in the symbolism and you don't understand even what that means. What that means. Often, if I can, I bleach ammonia, I remove the labels off these candles if I can. In the event that the labels don't easily come off or can't easily be removed, you know, I ignore it. I'm not paying attention to the white faces that are on the candle. It ain't, listen, I ain't being racist. It ain't very many religious candles that have any black faces on it. Not many at all. There are a few saints, you know, that are black or brown, but not many. And particularly when you go to, you know, your average candle shop, you're seeing, you know, a pasty Virgin Mary, a pasty, you know, Son of God. You know, you're not seeing the diversity that is planetary, that is global. And where are the Indios? Where are the indigenous candles? Where are the Mayan figures and the Aztec figures and the Egyptian candles and the Asian candles? Well, you don't see that because that ain't popular. Go ahead, beloved.
That's what I was about to ask you. Well, you know, I love Orisha and I love Ifa, but why don't we here in the West and, you know, the Native American, you know, this is American heritage. Is it just lost, or, you know, do we have to find it? You know what I mean?
I don't necessarily think it is lost per se. No more than that sort of thing that we've been saying for years. Lost their languages and you know, we just take what we've been given. Those are Erykah Badu's words. I don't necessarily agree with that in its entirety. I think we are finding ourselves, and even this old world information, archaeologists are uncovering it. Historians are uncovering it. Researchers are uncovering it. So we, and particularly black people, have got to move away from religiosity, and study some things outside of just religion. Okay? So in order to make sense of the Bible, for instance, when I was a teenager, I wanted to study geology. I wanted to study language. I wanted to study history, ancient cultures, ancient history, in order to make sense of what's being read in the book, of what's being said in the book. I have a dictionary in here. I don't know where it is in a moment. It's a biblical dictionary. And it's not so Bible either, so don't be put off by that, because it breaks down the Greek symbolism, the Egyptian symbolism, the various cultures that show up in the Bible, what the lamp might have meant, what the oil might have represented, you know, what some of the other symbolism and words that we find, you know, in that magical book, what they really meant and what they really represented. So yeah, now the only excuse hoodoo occultism is us, is lazy, is ignorance, is oh, it's too much for me to read that book. I listen, Paul will tell you, I got books that I send my godchildren and my clients. Kiona knows, Kayla knows, a few other here knows. A basic book might have 40 pages. I just recently sent out a book about the orientation of moving into ATR, ancestors, Ori, setting up shrines, Eshu, and it's about 67 pages long. I got some clients still ain't read it. It's just too much. Or I just don't have time. Or I have a problem with reading. One of my male clients told me that. I just reading English words and it's so challenging to me. I said, okay, beloved, so where are you connected then? And so he's discovering his ancestry, and he's got this French and Creole ancestry. I said, well, parlez-vous français? And he looked at me like, huh? Parlez-vous français? So you're trying to convince me now that your people are French and Creole, and that maybe you would be better apt to that language, but you don't speak no French. You don't know no Creole. So what language then should I be communicating to you in? Okay? To reach you, because that language, go ahead, beloved.
That's crazy. I know that we have other languages, but you have to understand that the English language, if you really know it, the English language can be powerful too. We have a lot of different words that mean other words. We have a lot of words that mean the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, you know what I mean? A homonym. That's what it's called. Your brain have to do a lot to process the English language if you really know how to speak it. So I don't know what he got going with that, but what I wanted to ask you is, okay, let's say if one finds the history on the Mayans, stuff like that, how could one turn and get some priesthood training out of that?
Now that's where it's difficult. That was one of my critiques. I won't say criticism about Kemetic science. I'm hesitant because I didn't want to say Dr. York's name, but Dr. York, many of his followers, some of the other, branches off of that practice and tradition that we saw really popular in the Black community, particularly in after Hurricane Katrina, 2005 up until maybe 2010, 2011, when we started seeing less people overtly arguing that Dr. York Kemetic platform. Then we saw people get away from using Dr. York's name and referencing that movement in particular, but just Egyptian. So there was a minute where, brethren were trying to learn to speak Kemetic, ancient Egyptian. Erykah Badu, it's got a real popular song that's got a brother speaking it eloquently, fluently. Initiation halls. Where are people being trained and initiated into how to feed and acknowledge the Kemetic deities or the Mayan deities? You don't have that. So just like Yoruba is popular and fashionable, and you can dig up Eshu and Oshun and Odu, out of the bowels of the internet, you often cannot do that for these other cultural practices and traditions if you aren't erudite, if you aren't willing to take it from a university, college level, academic perspective. You got to be willing to do that work for yourself. People want a book. People want Louisa Tesh, Jambalaya. Oh, this must be the Bible. It's got everything I need to know about Orisha and Voodoo and Hoodoo in it. And so this is going to be my Bible. No. Even Louisa Tesh didn't give you her secrets, didn't violate the mysteries, didn't go into no detail about initiating into any of it. She just gave you her experience, just like Gonzalez Whippler and Santery Experience just gave their experience. They are not about to risk violating the mysteries for anybody, because then you can't go to Nigeria and be respected. then you can't walk into the Lukumi community and be respected if you publicly have violated the mysteries, okay? But when we look at Akan, for instance, Fawn, Eve, that's just right there between Nigeria and Ghana. Where are the books for that? Where are the scholars who've taken the time to go into that Orisha romantic level of detail about Akan deities, about Mayan deities? There's no one doing that. Even China, I love Chinese and Japanese and Asian culture. Since childhood, I've always had a connection to Asia. Their gods, their deities, their religions, like Shinto, for instance. Very familiar with Shinto. Very familiar with Buddhism and Hinduism. Zoroastrianism. How many of you all know what Zoroastrianism really even is? And how many other traditions are birthed from that? We don't do our homework. We want it quick, fast, and in a hurry. We want somebody to write a book and give us ABC, 1, 2, 3, and all I got to do is read what's in the book. All I got to do is exactly what's in the book. You can't even be a real Christian and just do and read what's in the Bible. You got to at some point apply that, process that, so that it makes sense in your own words, in your own experience, in your own understanding. So there's no one, no book, no system, beloved, to walk people through Mayan gods and deities. Even if you travel to Honduras, which I physically have never done, but I'm doing it every day online, there's no school set up for that. Ain't no houses in Honduras set up for that. Very few, very few. I've been looking around Brazil for like the last year. I met a movie documentary producer from Brazil last year. She and one of the Horn brothers came here to New Orleans to meet me. So I've been paying a lot of attention to Portuguese and Brazilian culture and communicating using Voodoo and some of the other apps to communicate with people in Brazil. Even there, it's a limited amount of houses, a limited amount of people who are absolutely walking and operating in these traditions authentically. But then you've got, just like here, people that just want that 12-page book, 20-page book. Make it plain to me. Make it simple to me. You literally want me to say, burn a yellow candle today, burn a blue candle tomorrow. Use your Florida water this way. Use your Florida water that way. Turn to the left, turn to the right. But then you can't think beyond that. You can't imply the instructions beyond that. It's almost like recipes. Every bag of flour have recipes on it. Every box of Uncle Ben's rice got a recipe on it and instructions. But cooks, chefs, mothers, fathers who are in the kitchen all the time don't necessarily need to read that recipe. Don't necessarily need to read those ingredients. And so if I'm going to make cheese grits, I know how to tweak this recipe and add my cheese, add my garlic, add my other, ingredients to this particular box recipe. But then you have the others who can't cook to save their life. Okay? And even if you read those recipes, those instructions on how to make the perfect pot of rice, you're going to burn it or overcook it or make it soggy every single time. Even trying to read the recipe word for word. Because it's reading the words and then it's application. So initiation gives us application. It gives you an opportunity to literally be in the house with someone, or like I often have to do through pictures, through Skype, through video. I have to walk you through, show you. I ask you all the time to send me a new picture of that altar. I know we just talked 3 days ago. Send me a new picture of your shrine so that I can see and give you sort of that virtual hands-on application. But there's nobody doing that for Mayan. There's nobody doing that for Aztec. There's no one doing it here for Hinduism You know, you either have to remotely connect with a teacher or mentor, or go to India and spend a few summers, spend a few months. You know, people can gain this knowledge, hoodoo occultism, through their own study. That's why we go back and forth about self-initiation. I'm okay with self-initiation, but most of you don't have the discipline to do that. Most of you could not put yourself through a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, a doctor's degree without a teacher, without someone prodding you, without someone saying, okay, you got 2 weeks to have this paper done. You've got an exam coming. You've got a pop quiz tomorrow. And even then, the teacher's going to say the pop quiz is going to be on this subject matter. And many of you are only going to cram for that subject matter. Many of you are only going to cram for the information that you think is on that particular test. And you're not going to remember anything else. You're not going to look into anything else. And so the self-initiation, the self-taught, very few people can really do that and commit to that seriously and read and take in all the information they need. So we're looking for the mentor, the teacher, the godparents, the Ianifa, the Babalao, you know, the practitioner. And there aren't many for any of these traditions. There are probably more for Ifa, hoodoo occultism. There are probably more for voodoo, Haitian voodoo. But even that is limited. Every day I'm in Ohio, I'm in Pennsylvania. Well, ain't nobody doing that here. And that may or may not be true. I'm sure there's authentically initiated Ifa people in every state in the Union. I'm sure there has to be, maybe one or two, but they're not all setting themselves up to mentor, to teach. They're trying to handle their own house, their own stuff. So when we get to this indigenous, older stuff that's not popular, that's not favored, that's not in this. And I've noticed, particularly with these overnight practitioners, some people are now targeting those traditions because there aren't a whole lot of people doing it, because there aren't a whole lot of other teachers operating in it. So they're dependent on your lack of knowledge. They're dependent on your ignorance, you know, and so they move into that. Let me show you some Mayan tarot cards. I've shared this on the show once before. They follow a typical tarot order, but then all the symbolism and all the imagery is not quite the same. It's Mayan. So you've got to be willing now to learn to count all over again, but to count in Mayan. Mm-hmm. You've got to learn now a whole new language, okay, and how to then apply that. I've had these Mayan cards at least 35 years. I've never used them. Not once.
Man, you making me feel very young now.
I've never used them. I've never tried to read myself or anybody else with them, because that would be inappropriate. I study the book. I read the book over and over and over again. And then I watch documentaries about South America, about Honduras, about Brazil, about Panama. And that gives me a greater sense of understanding about what I'm reading, about what I'm taking in. But I don't arrogantly try to use them and mix other people's energy up in them because I'm not there yet. I'm not there. I had regular tarot cards for 15, 20 years before I tried to read myself or anybody else with them. It's just not a safe thing to do. But those practices, hoodoo occultism, those traditions are just not, you know, the information is out there. If you're willing to do the information, if you're willing to read, if you're willing to study, the information is out there, but you don't find a lot of teachers or systems already set up in some of those old world religions with the desire to reach a modern audience. Now, they might be speaking to other indigenous people in Honduras and the neighboring countries, but they're not wholesale trying to reach out to Westerners unless it's a tourist thing. You know, we have ayahuasca and other organic drugs that people, mostly white people, are going to the jungles of Brazil and other places to go and experiment and supposedly have these great spiritual experiences. But I'm not even seeing a lot of that in terms of them bringing that back, that power, that energy, that knowledge back to the U.S. and then sharing it in any tangible way. I just hear people talking about their experience with these various drugs, peyote, a few other drugs, but no real contextual advancement. And to some degree, EFI is guilty of the same thing. People, Americans, are going over, with their hard-earned saved money, getting these quickie 1 month, 1 weekend initiations, and then they're coming back to the States and doing absolutely nothing with it. They're not teaching it, not sharing it, nothing that affects the greater community. So there's not teachers often, Hoodoo occultism, or there's not the mindset from the people often to take in this new information, to absorb this new instruction. So it does look like, these languages, these practices, these traditions get lost. And the secrets and the wisdom of them get lost. And on the occasion where it is available, we're just not willing to do that research. I research everything to the best of my ability. But it's an opportunity for you to sort of take that lead. I hope I answered your question. Area code 305. Did I acknowledge you? I think your hand was raised, and you too might have had a question. I'm going to be going soon, so I want to acknowledge your question before I end the show. Or did I speak to you already, 305? Maybe I did.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, you already spoke to me.
You addressed 305 already.
Okay. Thank you all. I got an appointment, an important call coming in 5 minutes, so I'm going to have to wrap it up. But I will be forward.
Okay.
I will be here with you again on tomorrow, and I look forward to another Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes on both YouTube Live and Blog Talk Radio. All is a blessing. Yes! Witch Doctor, Mighty Sparrow Witch Doctor. Rose, call me Rose. Rose Dunum Baranga. Ile unana ile abracadabra. The fire blazing and the water hot. It's time to put something in the pot. Thank you. Peace and love, peace and blessings. Thank you. Invoking the dead. Roger, call me Roger. Roger Unubaranga. Ile unane ile abracadabra. The fire blazing and the water hot. It's time to put something in the pot.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Well, that's it, y'all. Peace and love, joy and prosperity. All is a blessing.